At this time, I will open this dog hearing. It is Friday, June 16th. The time is 1:07 p.m. My name is Amy Croto. I am a senior natural resource officer and shellfish constable in this town, and I'm the hearing officer assigned to this dog hearing today. I have here a letter dated June 2nd, 2023, to a Bonnie Lombard of 4 Columbia Avenue, Marston's Mills, Mass. 02648, stating, "Dear Ms. Lombard, I have scheduled a hearing under the provisions of Chapter 140, Section 157 of the Mass General Laws on Friday, 16th, 2023 at 1 p.m. based on a complaint received regarding dogs harbored by you. The complaint states the dogs are vicious and there is excessive barking, which is in violation of the Town of Barnstable dog regulations, specifically Chapter 403-15. The hearing will take place at Town Hall, 367 Main Street, Hyannis, Mass. In the Selectmen's Conference Room on the second floor. You will be given every opportunity to be heard at this time. I request that you make every effort to attend this hearing. Sincerely, Mark S.L.'s Town Manager." This was delivered in hand to Bonnie Lombard by Animal Control Officer Anne Marie Lapino on June 5th, 2023 at 8:56 in the morning. So, swearing in of the witnesses. Any individual planning on speaking in this hearing, please raise your right hand. Anyone planning on providing testimony in this hearing?
Raise your right hand.
Are you going to speak?
Am I going to speak?
You have to raise your hand, but not yet.
No.
You're-
Yeah.
Okay. Is that right?
Anyone who's planning on speaking in this hearing today, raise your right hand right now, please. Perfect. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you're about to give in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Yes. Okay. All right, so then at this time, we will hear from the complainants, who are Jane Barton was the one who issued the complaint, and then we have Lisa and John Vieira also here. Jane, why don't you start?
Should I start from my very first encounter?
You can start with any testimony that you would like to provide
Okay.
pertaining to the
Both dogs.
complaint of the vicious dogs and excessive
Okay,
barking.
my first thing I want to state is in the letter that they sent to her, my complaint was about the dogs being in the yard and excessive barking. I will say this, last week, I heard the dog barking for maybe 10 minutes. Other than that, the dogs do not bark unless they're in my yard.
Okay.
So the dogs, I'm not making a complaint against the barking. I might complain about the rooster, but, the dogs, no. Okay, my first encounter was when I purchased the house. John's property backs up to mine. The fence was busted. He left me a note that he wanted to fix the fence. I contacted him. We agreed to meet in the backyard. Him and I were standing in the backyard for about 15 minutes having a chat. My dog was sitting between John and I. Out of the woods comes flying a very, very nice-looking pit bull. Went right on my dog. The woman that came out of I did not know that there were two women that lived next door, so I wasn't sure who was who. The woman came over, tried to grab the dog, was screaming. There was no collar for her to restrain the dog or nothing. I just looked, finally John helped separate the dogs. I said, "Leela, go in the house." My slider was open, my dog took off, went in the house. She's 13 years old, she's on her last leg, she's never been in a fight, and she was in the house like this. So that was that. Well, I called the dog officer. The woman was screaming at me, "Go ahead and call, I know Charlie, he's a good friend of mine." Called the dog officer. Charlie came down, and I said, "Apparently you're good friends with them," because they said, "Go ahead and call the dog officer." And his words were, "I'm not a friend with them. I know them from being called out in the past." That's all he said. The next time I was at my clothesline hanging my clothes, the pit bull came in the yard barking and barking, and I'm screaming, "Call your dog off, call your dog off." I don't care what kind of dog it is. Every dog on the face of this earth is capable of biting. And I was terrified because a pit bull won't let go. And I'm screaming, and now Bonnie comes in the yard. And I realized it was Bonnie because I realized the other one had a tattoo. And that was the only way I could differentiate. At that point, I was screaming at her. She was asking me why I was being so nasty and rude. And I said to her, I apologize if you think I'm rude, because maybe you're not aware that your dog came after my dog, because she wasn't there, it was the other woman. And while she's in the yard trying to get the dog, again, the dog is like deaf. She calls the dog's name, he doesn't even acknowledge his being called, and she has no control, because there's not even a collar for her to grab. So while we're having a conversation or a screaming match or whatever, the little chihuahua comes in the yard. And her words were, that's the one you gotta be afraid of, because that's the one that bites. And I'm like, okay, everything's said and done, dog is gone. Again, go in, call the dog officer. I call the dog officer. This time the woman came up. She informed me, and the town sent me a thing that I could request a hearing, because apparently nothing's getting done. So I requested the hearing. So the 29th, I was sitting on my deck. My dog was in the house. My slider was open, and I was sitting on my deck. My deck is this high off the ground. And I was playing free cell, just sitting there, just my face in my phone, and all of a sudden, this dog comes tear-assing out of the property between Bonnie and I. There's like some woods. It was the Chihuahua, the one that bites, within 10, from here to that wall away from me, barking and everything. And I'm screaming to get out of here, get out of here. My dog comes outside because he hears the barking. I didn't want to get her involved. I said, Lita, go in the house. She turned around, she went in the house. I'm screaming, get your dog. She comes out of the woods. There's a collapsible umbrella that you clip to a chair, so you have shade, for my mother, who's 89 years old and suffered a stroke, has no use of her right side. I took her to Ohio Tuesday because she's afraid. She's not sat on the deck since then because she's afraid, because if the dogs come over, she can't do shit. So I got the umbrella, it's closed, and I'm standing now, the dog is about 8 feet from me, and I'm waving the umbrella, like trying to scare off the dog, like, get out of here, get out of here. She comes out of the woods, you touch my dog, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
No, I didn't.
I will.
Oh my
Did you hear?
God.
Did you hear?
Oh my God, Lisa,
I will remind
stop.
you.
Now, excuse me, when-
All conversation is to be directed
Oh
at
my
me.
God.
I am not going to tolerate verbal confrontations across the table in this hearing. Okay, so we had a verbal confrontation that day.
I called the police, they came out. I was told what to do. Bonnie and Crystal have both been served with papers from the sheriff's office that they are not to step foot in my yard or they will be arrested.
Okay. Have there been any additional, this was, I'm assuming, the 29th of
Yes,
May?
yes.
Okay. Have there been additional issues with the dogs being in your yard since that?
Not that I've seen them.
Okay.
Pull the mic towards you.
Pull the mic towards me.
Yeah, the one in front of you.
Better?
A little more down.
Now?
Yeah, it's good.
Surprising for someone who has such a loud voice.
And
All
I
right.
just have one more thing to say.
Yep, that's fine.
I didn't even not know that that was Bonnie sitting across from me when she came in today. I said to her, who's the woman that just went to the bathroom? Because
does that matter?
because I didn't even know it was you because of the way you presented yourself. Now, number two,
I will mention this is a dog hearing.
Okay.
This is specific to the excessive barking and vicious nature of the dogs.
It's just
It has
the vicious
nothing to
nature.
do with neighbor-to-neighbor issues. This is a dog hearing. Any civil issues that you have with your neighbor is a completely separate matter than what we are dealing with here
Right.
today. This is specific to the complaint that you put in for the pit bull and the chihuahua, okay?
right,
All right.
And how do you go about tackling that? Civil,
Police department.
okay.
It's a civil matter. We're animal control. We deal with the dogs. Okay, so do you have anything else to add? I mean, we can circle back around if there's anything that you think of.
have, the first time she came in the yard where both dogs were there, and she told me about the Chihuahua, I had two friends there, They're working today, they couldn't come.
Okay.
But if you need any, from them, state.
I mean, they could have provided a written statement that could have been read into the record today.
I didn't know if it had to be something that was like legal or notified or notarized or anything.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Thank you.
Lisa?
Okay, these things have been going on for 20-plus years. I'm exasperated. I have nothing else to say.
My name is John Vieira. The first time in 28 years that I've seen those dogs on a leash was June 6th of 2023. People walk around the corner there and they chase them out of the door and they chase them at the corner, barking and screaming at people. They come in the neighbors' yards, they do their mess, they just leave the mess in the yard. Across the street from me, Blake, that pit bull, loves crapping in his yard. The dogs are loose constantly. I'm telling you the truth. The first time I seen them on leashes is June 6th of 2023 after 28 years living there.
Okay. Okay, so at this time, do you have a preference on how you would like to start this?
Is it okay if I speak?
Yep, just make sure apparently that you're either have the microphone closer to you
I,
or that you're speaking very loudly.
Am I? Well, first, I could only find one of the letters. I bring my Chihuahua to work with me every day, and he's actually registered to my mom. He's my mom's dog, but we share him. And I had customers that wanted to come here today, and I said, no, you don't have to come here. But anyway, this is a letter that Marcia Gladstone wrote about Toro, because she babysits Toro all the time, and I have pictures, and numerous people wanted to give their what's the word?
Speak to the nature of the disposition of the dog.
Yeah, yes, thank you. So I will say this.
Do you want this officially in the record?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay.
She wanted to come, but his husband, he wanted to come, but they're in wheelchair. Anyway.
Okay.
The times that Miss Barton, I believe, is talking about, I remember the first time I encountered, I said, hello, welcome to the neighborhood. And I did joke, and I made a joke and said, the pit bull is the baby. That's the one you have to worry about. And I laughed and said, that one bites. Now, this was over a year ago, I believe. Okay, so that was the first time that I dealt with Ms. Barton. Cindy came out, it was a Sunday. I remember that she came out to the house and we had a conversation about the dog going over there, and she's like, Bonnie, just keep, because I try and keep grass and trees and this and that. I didn't, as soon as I said, I laughed and I said, that's the one that you have to worry about that bites. And she goes right away, well, if that dog bites me, I don't care. Any one of those dogs bite me, they're done. And I looked at her and I said, you are so charming. I said, what part of the Cape are you from? And she said to me, get the fuck out of my neighborhood. Get the fuck out of my yard. And I said, wow. I never swore, never did anything.
Again,
So,
this is specific
dog,
to the
dog,
nature
okay?
of the dogs,
So
not
that's-
the interactions that you have had with one another.
That was the first time that Toro has gone into her yard. Okay?
Okay.
The second time was on the time that I had, I was having plumbing work done. My house was gutted, and there was workers there. So that day the dog got out, and he was barking at Ms. Barton. And I went running up, I ran through the trees, and I says, I have him. And as I looked, she has a blue umbrella, and she's like this. And I said, with my finger, this is where I think she thinks I said, I will tell you exactly. I pointed at her, and I said, if you even touch that dog, so help me God, I will knock your head off. Yeah, that's not me shooting you. So, anyway, that's it. I picked up my dog, and I went and I called the police, and the police came to my house first, and I had a conversation with the police, and then we talked. Everything was fine. The officer went over to next door to Miss Barton's house, And he came back and said to me, he goes, Bonnie, just keep the dog out of the yard. And I said, okay, and that was the end of it. And then I said, oh, wait a minute. Did she admit to, and he goes, yeah, she admitted that she was going to hit the dog with the umbrella. But then she also said that you were going to shoot her. And I go, what? And I said, wouldn't that have been the first thing that you say to someone? And that is the end of it.
Okay, so then you're stating that only the
Twice.
Chihuahua has been in her yard and that
Twice.
the pit bull has not been.
Well, see, Crystal, that's Crystal's dog.
Why isn't Crystal here?
Yeah.
Anyone
don't
who
have
needed
anything
an
to
opportunity
say.
to speak at the hearing,
Oh, the dog has no license?
what did
The
I
dog-
tell? Listen,
The dog has a
I want everyone
license.
to stop speaking at this point, okay? I want to remind you that your turn to speak is your turn to speak to me regarding the issue at hand, which is the excessive barking and potentially vicious nature of the pit bull and of the Chihuahua. This is not to discuss who has licenses, who has threatened other people. This is specific to the behaviors of the dogs, okay?
May I ask a question?
You can.
Wouldn't there have been more phone calls from other people?
So that is
Was that
when we have testimony from the animal control
Okay.
officer.
Okay.
Hi,
Yes, hi. Can you just identify
Shirley
yourself?
Lombard.
Thank you.
She's down
Okay.
too.
I'm the owner of the Chihuahua. We adopted her from Texas
Yeah.
about 2 or 3, 4 years ago. And the dog shares my house and Bonnie's house, but I'm the owner. She's registered in Sandwich. She has a license. She has a rabies shot. She has never bitten anybody. She's a Chihuahua. She's 5 years old, 6 years old, and she has a lot of personality. She will bark, yelp when someone approaches.
Not
That's it.
everybody, though.
Not everybody. But the day of this incident, as I understand it, I wasn't there, Roto-Rooter was at 4 Columbia Avenue doing excessive work in the
Doors were
house,
open.
downstairs and upstairs. All the doors were open. The dog stays at my house partially, and he stays at Bonnie's house. When I have things to do, I leave town, the dog is at Bonnie's house. And the Chihuahua's name is Toro. The pit bull's name is Sola.
Sola.
They're very close. And the owner of the pit bull, well, she gets upset when Toro, my Chihuahua, is not there because she says her dog gets sad, and she'll sometimes show feelings toward her that the Chihuahua is at my house too much because her dog gets sad. And why isn't Toro up at Bonnie's house? So
Sola has never.
and I see, and I have a little Morkie, which is a Yorkshire Terrier, is about the same size as Toro, and they're very close too. So poor Toro is, he's between the two houses, and he is a Chihuahua, and he's very, well, my dog is very meek, and he's 13, but Toro bosses him around, doesn't let him walk and stuff, and we just laugh because it's so cute. Toro has never had any vicious attack on anyone.
Anybody.
He's never bitten anyone. I am the owner of the dog. He's licensed. I have proof of it if you'd like to see it. I don't know why people are saying he's not registered. He is
All the
registered.
dogs are registered.
Okay,
You want to see proof?
sure. If you've got it, we can add it into the record.
I take the bus in to work every day, and Toro goes on the bus with me every day, and everybody on the bus was like, excuse me, I had a video of everyone waving to Toro, and people were saying, like, it has never barked at anyone on the bus. He sits there with the kids, and they all waved. We took a video, but unfortunately, my phone got run over.
Okay.
So the video I can bring it to the gentleman who fixes phones next door, and I can get video of that if you'd like to see it at another time.
Okay, well, I mean, today would have been the day for that.
I know, but
yeah.
it just happened at the phone.
Sure,
so.
sure.
Can I-
So I will, we'll come back to you when it's the appropriate time. I will now enter into the record, and I'll need to make copies of this for the file, that there is a 2023 dog license in the town of Sandwich, license number 1878, issued 4/19/23 to Shirley Lombard for Toro, a brown age 6 Chihuahua whose rabies expires 4/15/24, and then we have the vaccination certificate. In addition, we have dated 6/16/23, a letter from Marcia Gladstone, to whom it may concern. I am defending Toro. I watch Toro constantly. He is welcome in my home and very well behaved. I will defend him always. He is a pleasure to be with, a wonderful companion. So I am going to hold on to this stuff at the end of the hearing. I'll make copies for the file, and then we'll return these to you both respectively. At this time, Mr. Lombard, do you have anything to add?
Well,
Can you speak into the microphone, sir? Thank you.
I just want to tell people that the two dogs that Bonnie owns are the nicest dogs you'd ever want to meet. I have never known either one of them to bite anybody. And one of them growls at you, but other than that, if you pick him up, he's like a big baby. And I just can't, I can't understand how anybody would complain about either one of them. But the guy that used to live in that house, I don't know if it was Joe.
Jeffrey.
Huh?
It was Jeffrey. It's Jeffrey's yard.
Him?
No, John lives on the other side. Jeffrey lived behind Jackie's 695.
Right. They used to feed both of our dogs. If I stopped at Bonnie's house and they went over there, they used to bark over there only for one reason: they wanted food. I can't understand how anybody could complain about the two dogs, because they're just friendly.
I think they sense.
Nope, not your turn yet, ma'am. We will come back to you after the animal control officer has had an opportunity to weigh in. Cindy.
Cindy Sherman, Animal Control. Charlie and I have discussed Bonnie Lombard's dogs and the situation between the neighbors for a number of years. I do not have any bite reports on either of the dogs. I do have the Chihuahua getting loose. I have a few complaints of the dog getting into other people's yards, barking at people, being loose, things like that. I have spoken to Bonnie about making sure she keeps her dog off of other people's property. She's very well aware of that, and so that's basically all I have. The only bite I have is from a German Shepherd quite a number of years
20
ago.
years ago. Teddy's been gone
And
for
that's
many
the
years.
only bite I have from that, any of Bonnie's dogs.
Okay, so then what you're referring to, I have in this folder
2004,
dated
Teddy.
11/12/2021 from a animal control daily log conversation with Bonnie Lombard, Columbia Ave, Marston's Mills, about her lost Chihuahua. No new news
Yep.
about Toro. I have a complaint dated the 24th of February 2022 from Joanna Berto about potentially neglected animals at 4 Columbia Ave. Received multiple concerns: 2 small dog, 2 elderly cats, ducks, and chickens. And then Officer Lewis will reach out to Ms. Lombard regarding a dog license for the small dog on the premises, which I'm assuming was Toro, which is
Right,
licensed in
right.
Sandwich.
Yep.
I have May 1st, 2022 for Columbia for verbal leash violation. Bonnie Lombard's dog went into her neighbor's yard. She was outside burning. Words were exchanged. Bonnie assured she was going to be more careful. Jane would like a request form for hearing. And then I have November 29th, 2021, a report that your dog was stolen by your roommate and given away to someone in Sandwich. And then the 11th of January 2022, follow-up conversation with Bonnie Lombard about her Chihuahua. Dog has been returned. And then, yeah, all other stuff is from, close to 20 years ago and pertains to the shepherd. So do you have anything else to add? Is the pit bull in question licensed?
I do not have any information on the pit bull. At one point, I was told the pit bull was licensed in Sandwich as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe the pit bull is licensed in Sandwich, and I was told belongs to
Crystal.
The pit bull belonging to Crystal is licensed.
Crystal just had her dog,
Ma'am,
sorry, I'm very sorry.
okay, so the pit bull
pit bull
named
belongs-
Sola belongs to
That
Crystal,
belongs to
who's not
Crystal,
here
who is
today.
not here, but
Okay.
goes
So we
back
will
and forth
follow
between-
up with Sandwich Animal Control to ensure that that dog is actually licensed in the town that
Absolutely, 'cause
it
that dog
allegedly
goes back and
resides.
forth. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
The dog goes back and forth between Sandwich and Barnstable, so yes, I will definitely follow up and make sure
Okay.
that we have that license.
All right, so at this point, we shall go around the circle again. Jane, is there anything you would like to add?
Yes, whether the Chihuahua has bitten anybody at all, the point is, every single dog is capable of biting.
Of course.
Okay, so my first encounter was when I first met John. I had
It would probably be best if you look at me when
Okay.
you're speaking.
When I first met him, and my dog was sitting there, and the two of us were just getting to know each other. It was our first meeting. And the pit bull came out and was on my dog. I mean, viciously attacking my dog. John and I tried to separate him, and then Crystal came out and got the dog.
Okay.
So I'm afraid of the pit bull because I saw him attack my dog in his own yard, and where we were in my yard was probably at least 40 feet from the property line between Crystal's Bonnie's property and mine. And then the second time when she came in, I didn't know if she was joking or not, because I was just screaming at her to get her dogs out of my yard. And that's when she made the remark about the Chihuahua biting.
Right.
Now, when you're sitting there minding your own business, and the dog is 40 feet into your property, 8 feet away from you, when I picked up the umbrella, it was one of those little foldable, collapsible ones. I was still about 8 feet from the dog, and I'm like this, get out of here, trying to scare the thing off. And because I'm thinking, she said, that's the one that bites. And when I called the dog officer, Charlie had come out, and she came out, and when I said, what do I do, just call you every single time those dogs come in my yard? And she goes, and she said to me, no. She goes, I will send you some paperwork, and when they come out again, fill it out and request a hearing from the town, because, and yes, the woman that lives across from Bonnie was aware that there was a hearing today, and she did tell me. She goes, I don't know what's going on over there, but she goes, but Rhoda Root has been there all week. So in defense of her, yes, the Plymouth people were there because the woman across, but the woman she has some health issues and she has small children and she could not be here today. But she said that this has been going on for years. So I'm gonna ask the dog officer, if I can ask her a question. What are my legal rights when those dogs step foot in my property?
So, can I start with, you always call animal control whenever the dog is loose.
Right.
We never tell people not to call when the dog is loose. Yes, we explain, I want you to file for hearing, but you always call animal control. If the dog is in your yard, you call us and we'll come out and take care of it. If the dog is actively, physically threatening you, that's a whole nother situation. But unless that dog is actively, physically attacking you, you do not have the right to go after that dog. You have the right to call us so that we can remove that dog, unless you are in fear of a physical attack
So-
with legitimate reason other than barking. If the dog is barking at you, that's not a legitimate fear.
Well, most dogs would bark at you before they would just attack you. And if you're, all I'm saying is
Yes.
this, I just want it on the record. You're explaining to me that absolutely nothing is getting done until I'm bit.
No, that's what this hearing is for.
But is that pretty much what you're saying? That I can't defend myself against either one of those dogs unless I'm bit?
If the dog is about to bite you,
How do I know if he's gonna bite me or not? If he's this far away and he's charging and he's barking, how do I know? Do I say, excuse me, are you gonna bite me?
so what is the concern that makes you feel like you're gonna get bit, other than the dog barking at you?
Well, number one, she did say to me, that's the one that bites. Number two,
Okay.
when you're sitting in your own property, it wasn't like I was over on the line doing something.
And-
I was sitting there like this, minding my business. My mother bought herself a recliner so she could sit on the deck.
Okay.
She's afraid to go out there now because she doesn't know if either one of those dogs is gonna come in the yard.
So that's what this hearing is for. And if the dog, really can.
And neither one of the dogs, the little one and the big one, Chihuahua, Pit Bull, neither one of them are calling. So that you couldn't even physically go over and grab the dog to restrain the dog. And they don't listen, they don't. My dog came out, saw that dog barking, and my first thought was, the Pit Bull's gonna come. And so I said, Leela, in the house. She turned right around and went in the house. She minds, she's trained, she minds. I don't know if that dog is gonna bite me. Every dog will bite under the right circumstances. I don't think I should not be able to sit on my deck in my own yard without a dog coming within 8 feet of me, barking at me. It's not right, and I'm gonna continue doing what I have to do to protect my rights, my mother, and my property.
And that's what this hearing is about.
The whole purpose of these hearings is to establish what the issues are and then make recommendations to address the issues that are not currently being addressed. Lisa, do you have anything to add?
Is there not a leash law in this town?
So that's exactly what I'm, getting at, is that when we have what would be considered a leash violation, because any dog in this town that is not on its own property is required to be on a leash. If they cannot be trusted to stay on their property and are therefore routinely not on their property, then the town manager hearings are what create the framework for compliance.
Okay, because the two dogs, the Pit Bull, and even though it's Chihuahua, doesn't matter what kind of breed, constantly walking, no collars, no leashes, up Columbia Ave. Crystal rides a bike with the two dogs trailing behind her, no leash, no collar. We have two dogs. Constantly, I don't walk them without a leash, and they're fenced in the backyard. They are never, ever loose. So I don't understand.
I also will say that I don't have any record of any of these instances that you're referencing. So if you see,
Dog officer.
Yeah, after 28
if you
years of this,
see
when
a
does
loose
enforcement
dog,
actually happen?
if you see a loose dog that's not on its property and you call animal control and animal control catches that dog,
But they have to catch the dog.
yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is after
Or at the
26
very
years
least
of this,
witness
when does enforcement
the violation.
actually happen? This
When-
has been going on for 26 years. Started with Teddy, it's
I
been going.
understand.
So when does enforcement actually start to begin?
So we can't issue a violation or a citation without actually witnessing the event taking place. So if you don't call us,
why are we under
excuse me,
oath?
I'm speaking. If you don't call us to let us know when the dogs are loose, then we can't issue citations for loose
Oh, I
dogs
see.
because we don't witness it.
So you need a record.
So even if we don't catch the dog loose, say it runs home, but we
Yeah.
see it not on its property and we know where it lives,
Yep.
then you can take enforcement action. If you don't call us when the dogs are loose, we
Okay.
don't know that the dogs are
Gotcha.
loose. And then nothing can be done because nothing's been reported.
So anytime we see them loose, just
You should call animal control,
Okay.
yes.
Can you show me the record of the times people called and said they were loose and you actually found that dog? Because it would take about 25 minutes to get to our property from where you're stationed, and then you actually, what, the dog's gonna sit there and wait for you?
So, I mean, this is a big town. There are dogs loose all over this town, literally all of the time. So we make our best efforts to respond to calls to service in a timely fashion that will hopefully result in an enforcement action when needed. But no, that doesn't always happen. That's not the way that reality works, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, anytime you see the dogs loose, you should be calling animal control. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. If we don't have somebody on at that period of time, it's still something that is logged, and then there's a record of the instances.
Didn't know that.
Okay.
so-
I'd like to speak.
Yep.
a little bit. Okay, well, I'm speaking just generally in everybody's, in Bonnie's defense. This lady lives behind Bonnie. These people live on the side. So Bonnie is just, Bonnie has the corner lot. And she has like a half acre. Her fences are in more than her property line from when we had it. And anyway, it seems that they are constantly 24/7 waiting for a dog to be outside unleashed. Neither dog has any history of any violent biting, attacking, barking.
There is a pretty clear issue of the dogs not
I
staying on
understand
their
that.
property,
I
which is
understand
something that will need to be
And
addressed.
I know Crystal will ride her bike with the two dogs and I know they should be on leashes. But she gives them exercise up Columbia Avenue.
Right.
And
They've
back.
never strayed when they're on the bike.
It doesn't matter. It's still a violation
I
of town
understand that, and
ordinance.
she has to understand that.
Right, exactly.
And when Sola, the pit bull, the baby pit bull, no, she's okay, but she's very, very gentle. Never has attacked anyone.
That's the joke that the
When she comes to my house, I live in Sandwich. I am
Big baby.
And there are a lot of dogs that walk on my street. And I tell Crystal, your dog has to be leashed. My dog won't leave our property. And Toro, of course, our neighbors are all friendly, and we never have a problem
Everyone has dogs.
with any of the dogs. We have like 3, counting them. So I just, hopefully they'll be diligent.
Actions will be taken correctly.
If Taro happens to step over onto her neighbor's property, and Bonnie's sitting there, Bonnie went right there to pick her up.
I went
She-
running through.
You
I
know,
went running through.
give her a chance
to just
to
get
get
the
her
dog.
dog
That was the-
without calling the police. It just seems. If the dog had
Wait.
bitten her, okay, if the dog had bitten anybody, it's just a friendly little dog.
I understand
she
that
should
you
have-
guys are speaking to the disposition of the dogs, but the apparent, issue here is that the dogs cannot be trusted to stay on their own property. And if the dogs cannot be trusted to stay on their own property, recommendations will be made to ensure
Yeah.
that they will stay on their property. Yep.
I just want to say, yes, that's exactly what is going to have to be done. I will say this, though. In the year, she bought her house in February my dog has only been on her property twice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bonnie,
Twice.
Bonnie has been in this house, too, at 4 Columbia Avenue for over 20 years. There's been other issues with, there's constantly aggravating, waiting for something to happen. Just,
Mom, let me
they
just
have
say.
dogs, we have dogs. Just be friendly. Nobody has ever bitten anybody. Nobody.
Never.
Again, You know, this, I'm not stating that the dogs
try to be
have bitten
neighborly.
anyone. What I'm stating is there is a pretty
try to be
clear
neighborly.
issue
Be
in
friendly.
terms of the dogs
No,
not being
no.
able to stay
You
on
don't
their
wanna be
property.
friendly?
Ma'am?
Not supposed to go across the table.
Okay, so this has been, I feel at this point, we're sort of circling around the same issue. Cindy, do you have anything to add?
We do patrol this area on occasion when we do have time. I just want you to know that we are aware that this dog gets loose and we do our patrol. But the reason why they have not been cited is because the dog has not been captured or witnessed by us loose. So yes, please call in whenever the dog is loose.
Can I ask a question of you?
You have to go through.
Are you done?
Yes.
Okay, so then at this point, we will circle back if you have a question.
Is the pit bull's license and vaccination public? Can it be made public? Can I call your office when Cindy is done with her investigation to see if that pit
So
bull
anything
is
that's-
vaccinated and licensed?
So anything that's added into this file then becomes obtainable under a Freedom of Information Act request. But right now, all I have to add into the record today is the license and vaccination status of the Chihuahua, as the owner of the pit bull and person responsible for that pit bull is presently not here. So that will be information that Cindy will be working on acquiring following this hearing. So I would say you're going to have to wait until she gets that information. But then you can certainly put in a Freedom of Information Act request. Instructions on how to do so are available on the town clerk's website. Because once we have anything that we have, like emails, calls to service, quarantine orders, all of that stuff becomes a matter of public record once it is recorded into our files.
Thank you.
One more, may I? Oh, shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. Just,
Okay.
it's nothing, I'm going to say this, I'm going to apologize to Ms. Barton, I believe. The day I was wrong, I referred to you, I called you a name, and I apologize. I don't say that to people. My parents have raised me. You don't speak like that. Okay? And I think you know what I said. And I apologize. And your yard is beautiful.
And I did apologize to you because I said to you, I wasn't aware at the time that the pit bull was owned by Kristen.
It's okay.
And I wasn't aware that you were two separate women.
Okay, that's okay.
And I said to you, I apologize to you if I was rude, screaming at you to get your dog out, because you were not aware that the pit bull
Right.
went after my dog.
Right.
Now, my dog is trained so much so that when she was going out at night to do her business in my yard, she'd go off the deck and she'd look this way. Of course, because she knew the dogs were there, or she'd hear the rooster and everything. And I'd go, Leela, this way. And I would send her over to Tim's, not in his yard because he's got a fence, but to do her business on that yard. I am afraid for myself of being bit, and I'm afraid for my mother who can't defend herself. Every dog is capable of biting. Your dog came out of nowhere. I was sitting there like this, and he was within 8 feet of me, barking and barking. I was within my right to pick up something to try to defend myself. It wasn't a gun,
I know.
but I have a right to defend myself.
Right.
And I
we
am
don't have
not-
a gun either.
Okay.
This is
I'm
going
gonna-
on the record.
Yeah.
This is going on the record for everybody in the room to hear. My exact words to Bonnie was, no, I don't even think it was to Bonnie. I believe it was to the dog officer. If the dog bites me, I will be the last person that dog bites. And that's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna wait for that dog to bite me or bite my mother before I do something.
Well, yeah.
I think, at this point, we have sort of circled around to the same issue a number of times. Neighborly issues aside, we definitely have a couple of dogs who can not be trusted to stay on their property. So at this time, I'm going to close the hearing. It is 1:51 p.m. on June 16th. We will take all of this information, make a recommendation to the town manager. He will determine what type of order to issue, and then that issue will be, hand delivered.
Is that Mark?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Mark is the town manager, yes. So he will issue a town manager order that will make, the more concrete recommendations to resolve this issue. So that way the dogs stay where they're supposed to be, and then you will have no need to fear being bitten because they will no longer be on your property. In the meantime, I'm going to go make copies of all this, give that back to you, and then Cindy will be in touch regarding the Freedom of Information Act request once we have more solid information on the pit bull.
One more thing. I'm not aware of everything that you read in that folder. Can I have copies of anything in that folder?
So that also is a matter of public record, and if you want any of our calls to service in terms of the pit bull and the Chihuahua being loose, you need to put in a Freedom of Information Act request. That is how you get that information.
I have to put in a request for it?
Yep, that's exactly why Freedom of Information Act requests exist. So that way you can make a request for specific information to be given you that's public record.
No.